And the incremental cost of spinning up new altcoins is clearly zero. And so what's the value of an incremental altcoin? What's the value of an altcoin when you can make a new copy for nothing? You can make 1 million copies in a month, and it's all narrative driven and meme based. Basically, there's no value. There's no scarcity, and scarcity is the thing that Bitcoin has a monopoly on in the cryptocurrency landscape. And that's what I want to, call people's attention to shake people, to say, like, look, this is playing out, and you can keep chasing altcoin gains, but you're going to lose because insiders dictate what happens. Or you can choose to change your approach and put your value into the only thing here that's actually scarce, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think we'll get to this in the rest of this conversation. But what I find interesting is that when you look at Bitcoin only from the technological angle, you will not get it, right? And the technological angle could be, blockchain technology. And then, you think about, I'm going to build a startup that has blockchain technology, right? Or you can look at, and I think that's, in general, the most interesting one, right? Like you have the blockchain trilemma with speed, security, and decentralization, where security and decentralization are focused on in Bitcoin, and the speed a bit less. I think there are great explanations about why the speed is actually just perfect. There's a talk by Jack Mallers where he actually explains how it aligns with speed of light. It's not too fast. Solana and Ethereum, or Solana, for example, is too fast. That's why it breaks sometimes, and they have to pause it and restart it again, etc. But the point here that I want to make is when you only look at it from the technological aspect, you think that, Bitcoin is, not even Yahoo, but what came before Yahoo, it's
thieves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there is no first mover advantage. That's what people think when they only look at it from a technological aspect, right? Like, there will be something better technology wise that comes along. And I think that's in general what most of crypto has ran with, right? So if you see the propositions of different crypto projects, it's this and this layers, or this speed, this much TPS, etc. And why I mentioned pump.fun, as what I know from my business background and my startup background, I always use the phrase, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can build something, just because you got funding, doesn't mean you should spend it on XYZ, or just build the thing that's in your head, basically. And what I'm seeing with pump.fun is literally that happening, right? Oh, we can build a tool that lets anyone create a token. So yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that. But that inevitably leads to, what we're seeing here in this chart, which I think actually will show us some characteristics of Bitcoin that are very unique, very profound, and actually characteristics that we should focus on and that show its differences with, all the cryptos that came after. And yeah, I kind of first wanted to start with, in this chart, we see these, 36, now 37 million tokens, they're created across various blockchains like Solana, Ethereum, and others. Yet you argue this has made Bitcoin stronger. Can you explain how the exponentially growing number of altcoins has paradoxically, I'd say, strengthened Bitcoin's position?
Yeah, absolutely. So for this, I think the most empirical approach still is to look at Bitcoin dominance, which is a very flawed metric. But the idea there is to show what percent of all the value in crypto is Bitcoin. And when you line up the timelines of this explosion of altcoins with what's been happening on the Bitcoin dominance chart, which I think is the second tweet if you want to go to that. But the Bitcoin dominance has been rising ever since 2021, when the number of altcoins started to explode. And that's very interesting. It's like, to your point exactly, you would think that with the massive growth in the number of altcoins that Bitcoin would become a smaller player relative to everything that's out there. But the opposite has happened. And I think it comes back to, like, my understanding of altcoins since arriving at Bitcoin. I used to be an altcoiner. I used to believe in the technology angle of things, and then finally the scarcity part of it really clicked for me. And Bitcoin is the invention of digital scarcity. And you can only do that once. Digital scarcity is a one-time phenomenon because you can create a copy of that system of digital scarcity, and that's an altcoin. So you have the original instance of digital scarcity, the system within which you can't make any additional supply, but you can copy the whole system. And that's what an altcoin is. And the thing about that is that you can endlessly copy that system and create an incremental altcoin. So, it's a bit of a philosophical leap, really, but any copy of digital scarcity is itself not scarce because you can create more copies of it. And so that was true at 7,000 altcoins. And, the writing was on the wall then, if you really thought about it, that the number of altcoins would keep growing and Bitcoin would continue to be the only thing that was actually scarce. And as that trend has played out and gone, hyperbolic here, I think that is becoming more evident to the marketplace that, the next altcoin is a dime a dozen, but you can't create any more Bitcoin. And that's the thing that everybody's really fighting for. So maybe that's the thing that you should actually just hold. And I think that, the growth of Bitcoin dominance since 2021 shows that people are waking up. Collectively, the marketplace is waking up and saying, you know what, the 36 millionth altcoin doesn't do shit. Maybe I should not try to chase that and instead try to get a piece of the only thing that's actually scarce here.
Bitcoin custody is evolving, and while self-custody is important, it has its own risks and trade-offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your custody setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated cold storage multi-signature vault, guarded by 3 independent institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control. Your funds are fully auditable on-chain, cannot be rehypothecated, and can only move or withdrawn at your explicit direction. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. Bitcoin is money, and as the price continues to appreciate, OnRamp helps you seamlessly tap into financial services like trading, inheritance, insurance, loans, IRAs, and more, all without compromising on security or accessibility. Check out onrampbitcoin.com through the link below and schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team to get to know them and learn more about their offering.
Bitcoin is financial sovereignty, so why compromise when you need liquidity? Meet Debify, the Bitcoin-backed lending platform made by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Debify connects you to institutional-grade liquidity and allows you to borrow fiat or stablecoins, all while keeping your Bitcoin 100% under your control with a non-custodial 3 out of 4 multi-sig escrow solution. Get competitive rates from a global marketplace of institutional-grade lenders with loan terms that you choose, from 1 month up to a year. There are no hidden fees and there is no rehypothecation, just pure Bitcoin-aligned lending with the highest level of transparency and security. Are you ready to unlock liquidity without ever selling a single sat? Go to debify.com/Bram, that's BRAM, to check out their current lending offers. That's debify.com/Bram. Yeah, I think for me, this kind of shows that there are other characteristics of Bitcoin that you should be paying attention to. Actually, Bitcoin itself became more scarce or more unique because, the competitors, air quotes, just increased. I think that's the core here, right? Like the number of competitors, quote unquote, increased, but the dominance kept growing. So more people are paying attention to Bitcoin, basically in a sea of growing competitors.
And I think that the growth in the number of competitors has just sort of revealed the shoddy logic of it in the first place. In 2017, you have narratives of like, is Ripple going to be, the Bitcoin for banks? Is Ethereum smart contract platform going to be like the world computer? And like there were these narratives that were kind of untested and seductive too.